Many of the group begged for mercy during the short hearings and insisted they had been duped into moving to ISIS-controlled territory by their jihadi husbands. Dozens more women have been sentenced to life in prison for their ISIS links as Iraqis rebuild their war-torn country after large swaths of land were occupied by the brutal terror group. French citizen Jamila Boutoudou told a Baghdad court she was tricked into moving ISIS' so-called caliphate in Iraq by her husband, who was killed during as US-led forces stormed the ISIS stronghold of Mosul. At a hearing last month, the 29-year-old mother said, "I thought I had married a rapper." Getty Jamila Boutoudou was sentenced to life in prison for traveling to ISIS territory. "It was only when we arrived in Turkey for a week-long holiday that I discovered my husband was a jihadist." Jamila Boutoudou: "It was only when we arrived in Turkey for a week-long holiday that I discovered my husband was a jihadist. I'm a victim. My husband beat me and locked me up in a cave with my children when I refused to follow him to Syria." She was sentenced to life in prison despite her lawyers not being there to defend her. William Borden and Martin Prattle have denounced the brutal legal process and said they had not been told about the trial until the last minute. Getty: Iraqi courts have sentenced more than 40 women to death for their ISIS links. Mrs. Boutoudou appeared in court again last week where she begged to keep hold of her daughter, according to The Guardian. She said, "I'm going mad here. I'm facing a death sentence or life in prison. No one tells me anything, not the ambassador, not people in prison. Don't let them take my daughter away. I am willing to offer money if you can contact my parents. Please get me out of here." She is one of an estimated 40,000 foreigners who traveled to join ISIS before the group was all but stamped out in Iraq and Syria. Getty lawyers for Jamila Boutoudou condemned the brutal Iraqi legal process. Many of the women jailed for life appeared in court with young children. Of this total, around 800 were British citizens and 1,900 were French. A further 1,000 women are locked up in Iraqi jails after their links to ISIS were discovered. Last month, a court in Baghdad sentenced 19 Russian women to life in prison for traveling to Iraq to join jihadis, Al Jazeera reported. The women, many of whom were accompanied by their young children, told the court they had been misled into making the trip. One said, "I did not know we were in Iraq. I went with my husband and my children to Turkey to live there and then I suddenly discovered I was actually in Iraq."